Prue Marshall, welcome to Over the Bonnet.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're pretty passionate about veterans and the experience that they have. You've set up a veterans retreat. Tell us all about it.
Our family business is probably the original veterans retreat in this particular region, in the Gympie, Cooloola region, called Stand Down Park. So we've had that now for about 17 years, and my dad is a national serviceman, Vietnam veteran. So so that's pretty well much. It's now open to the public. It's been open to the public maybe 3 years after we actually started it. And my experience, I suppose, is more to do with the older veterans, although nearly 40 and that sort of thing. So so that's what it is now. It's a caravan park, veterans retreat for military and first responders, and that's what it is.
How do they treat it?
Like home.
And why is that? What do they get that they don't get elsewhere?
Rest and just the ability just to relax. It's 18 acres of just backing onto the forestry. It's not commercialised, so it's beautiful. It's manicured gardens. It's beautiful out there, and you can feel it. It's become home to me as well, and to my sister, and to my brother, and the people that are close to me as well, that friends and family and that sort of thing. So when you drive through the door or through the gates, so to speak, it's that everything feels good.
Because veterans experience some unique problems as a result of their military service.
Yeah, trauma is one of those things that it's very universal, and it can come from either physical or mental or, all different sort of indications really as to what happens. And it could be things that are triggered, prior to service or during service or even after service. And it's, I think it's more to do with the level of whether it's military or first responders. It's being trained to alter that fight-flight response. It can sort of relate a little bit in regards to being a daughter of a veteran as well, and growing up in that sort of scenario with having, family that have been trained to alter that fight-flight response. So I know that personally, I actually do that sort of thing. I know that I've altered it too, naturally over the course of time. So,
But what have you learned from these veterans then?
Lots. They've become my family, and they've become our family. And so therefore then it allows us to sort of think beyond what's happening just now, I mean, our experiences with Stand Down Park and the people that are out there, it's an ageing population. So my dad's in his mid-70s. Majority of the people that are out there are, 65, 70 plus. And it's that older age group. For years, we've been trying to tap into the younger vets as well. So, and recently, in the last, I would say, 12 months, we've sort of connected really, really well with and become really good friends with Kylie James, who has Veterans Retreat in Mother Mountain. But we can talk about that later on. So, so it's more the fact that they've just become family, because you sit around the campfire and you listen to their stories, and you talk to their wives and their partners and their kids even, and all of a sudden you're sort of like, I'm not alone. Everybody else is, within this whole military lifestyle, we're all the same, We have that level of love and that level of compassion and understanding. And then you've got, on top of that, you've got the honour and the patriotism and all of that sort of thing that's added to it. So when you're living and breathing that from a family point of view, that's unique. That's why it's probably so passionate, and why this industry is so passionate. Well, I wouldn't call it an industry. It's just, it is what it is, military and first responders and that sort of thing.
Is there such a deep correlation between the military and first responders?
to me, it's pretty straightforward. They've fought for our country and for our community, and it's how can you not respect that? Like that's
Absolutely, but as
huge.
I say, from say, okay, let's say an ambulance bearer who's a first responder, as opposed to say you're talking about your dad who was a Nasho.
Yep.
Where's the correlation there?
Well, I think the whole it's not so much about I don't really know the exact correlation. It's just isn't it just the industry, like there's services that supply, safety and freedom and that sort of thing to our country. Like,
Should we be doing more for them?
yeah, yeah, yes.
In what way? What would you like to see in a perfect world?
Well, this is what brings me probably where the whole idea of TVD has come into it. We briefly touched about this, but it's a bit of a brainchild of mine for years, and it's come from, that whole sitting down and talking with family and talking with partners and kids and all of that sort of thing about where the gaps are, where the gaps in support are, and why we need to think a little bit bigger, and that's why TVD started to come to life.
So explain TVD, what does that stand for?
Well, TVD is an acronym really for the Veteran's Daughter, which is a concept. It's not so much a name, it's a universal name. It sounds like a bit of a female name, but it's a concept. It's all about building a network of support of direct family members that have that level of respect and honour and love and compassion and understanding that I talked about earlier, to then delving further into it and creating, it's almost like an umbrella effect that taps over a support system. It's huge. Mark, we probably don't have enough time for me to tell you all about this, but it's thinking A, outside the box, and B, bringing all of the things that are required and necessary to be able to not only transition people through back into civilian life and tapping into things like, purpose and loss of identity and all of those things that I'm finding now that I'm talking more and more to younger veterans, that these are things, and older veterans have that same sort of problem too, but the younger veterans are finding it really bloody hard to do these sorts of things. And this is, the more and more I get, and friendship-wise with Kylie and opening up, avenues of younger veterans and talking to them, it just means that I feel like we're on the money, and when I say that, don't take that literally. I mean, the concept and the idea of thinking bigger and broader and bringing services under one roof in a hub situation where you're addressing social impacts such as homelessness is a huge one. Like, how can anybody think that anyone that has served our country deserves to be living rough? Like, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm a country girl, and oh my God, that just makes me tear up, So it's one of those things, like I want to be able to make a difference in that sort of thing. So that's why that's a social impact that I want to be able to address. The effects of PTSD and trauma, of whether it's physical and emotional and mental and psychological, all of those sorts of things, and be able to tap into those sort of resources. So and utilise third-party allied and mental health professionals to be able to do that. So we already have, exercise physiologists and counsellors and all different types of clinicians that we can access, but we seem to be missing the mark somewhere. And this is
what's the mark you're missing though?
Well, bringing it together. I mean, people are waiting like 16 weeks to be able to see somebody. Like, that's too long. If somebody comes to you for help, that's way too long, Mark. So if they require immediate attention, like, we want to be able to do that now.
You talk about the homelessness. Now, it's an interesting thing that you wouldn't think that our vets really have a problem with it. Is that why Sandown Park was born in the first place?
Well, Sandown Park originally was a retreat for my dad. He's I mentioned we're country people, so he doesn't really like crowds at all. And his experience, I can tell you now, growing up, we went to shows, but my dad never went to because he didn't like the fireworks and all of those sorts of things, and he doesn't do crowds and all the things that you think of somebody that doesn't have a parent that's gone through the military, or they're little things. I know that they're little things, but they're big things to him, and they are important things to him. So therefore, then you alter things. So Sandown Park really was set up as a retreat from him, for him, and then of course his mates came along and went, oh, this is really nice. 18 acres, flat grassy land, close to the Rainbow Beach and close to, everything. And then all of a sudden, sparked the idea of my dad, because he's quite an entrepreneurial mind as well. And then the idea of creating a retreat as such came to life, and then went to council and boom, caravan park. Then we opened it up to the public.
Growing?
Yes, naturally. And I think obviously COVID has hit everybody really hard. And we see it in different ways as well, even myself, oh God, I just need to get out and dance. You know what I mean? Like it's hurting everybody. But from a tourism, grey nomads, like that's the market for Sandown Park, is over 50s. So, and they set it up like that because that's them, They didn't want, to commercialise it with pools and swing sets and all of that sort of thing. So that's why a lot of everything there is just lots of space. You're not living on top of each other, or you're not camping on top of each other. There's no cabins there, It's a lifestyle business for them, and I guess what has happened is it's gained a lot of momentum over the years, and very, very popular with caravan clubs, of course, because we can accommodate 30, 40, vans in one hit and be able to cook for 100 and 200 people out there, camp oven cooking and all that sort of thing in our camp kitchen. So, it's evolved, it definitely has, and it's grown, each time, but it's been a nice natural growth, and rather than boom, here we are, and here it is. So,
You've got mainly older veterans. You talk about COVID. How concerned are you about the whole COVID situation? Because older people obviously are more susceptible.
Oh, very concerned. Very, very concerned. Again, this comes back to the fact that, they're our family, and my sister Zoe, she's coming up, she's looking after the park for the next 6 months as well. So, and her background of, being in Department of Justice and that sort of thing as well, everything's very much tied in. Everybody's very nervous, and we have to, when it comes to taking bookings and that sort of thing through Sandown, we've got to obviously find out where you're from, and right the way through to what size is your underwear, that sort of thing. Like,
have you had to turn anyone away?
Yes, and that's hard, really, really hard, because you don't want to turn anybody away,
What's the reaction been when you do turn someone away and say, hey, you can't come here?
Oh, I think from a public point of view, because we always ask that question, have you got military or first responder background, that sort of thing, and in which then we try and sort of work out how do we try and help as many people as we possibly can without upsetting anybody. It's all about keeping the peace, really. But the reaction, I guess, it's not great. It's not great at all. I'm going to not lie here, Mark. It's not great. But that's the realism at the moment. And
so you have to protect the people that are already there.
Yes. We're in the top 20% of high risk, so with majority of the people in the park that are, of older sort of stature, over 60, over 65, that sort of thing. So, yeah. And of course, it's my mum and dad's home. So, of course we want to make sure that every single person coming through those gates are COVID safe.
You talked about Kylie before, and she's running a veterans retreat, which you work in conjunction with, and she's getting involved with you. Tell us about that.
Well, it's a really beautiful thing, really, because her and I are the same age. We worked out that, growing up, funny story, really. I did Army cadets going through high school, and being of military background, and in my head I was always going to the Army, and around that sort of time of year 11, year 12, they did that whole women in defence thing, and of course I was like, yep, that's what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to the Army, And
Because your dad was an ASHO?
yeah, I think that had a part of it, but I just love it. Like I love it. And yeah, all of everything around, I like to shoot, and I like to run around, and yeah, it's cool stuff.
So what happened?
My dad said no. And when you're 17 years of age and you grew up with military dad, like you just don't argue. And then I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do with my life? So then I went into sales and marketing and been into all different types of industries right the way through, which I feel like has led me to the point of now I'm and having that entrepreneurial mindset. I don't know whether or not that's from family or not, but yeah, I think that sort of led me to the point of business has always been, and also mum and dad have only ever owned their own businesses too, small businesses. So they've never worked for anybody else other than themselves. So having that ingrained in you, and it was sort of that whole natural progression of I want to create something for myself and for my family, and also to help. Like that's the whole key to it all, is that nothing is sustainable unless it's of value and helping other people, and that's what this is all about.
Do you have regrets you didn't go into the military?
Oh, look, you know what? No, I don't have regrets because I've learnt so much along the way, but but it's such a part of me. So jumping back into how I get to know Kylie and what she's doing and that sort of thing, she actually, in that time frame, because we're the same age, she actually jumped in and went to the Army. So she's been only medically discharged only 18 months ago, and she's like, oh my God, the things that I hear about from her career is just incredible and so admirable. I'm incredible. Like 20 years in the Army, 2 tours overseas. She's awesome, absolutely awesome. And what she's doing at Veterans Retreat, so when she was medically discharged, of course, part of the whole parcel is mentally you feel like you're right, but body-wise, it's not working. So if it's you're out, and what do I do next? And this whole issue that a lot of younger vets have got too, is this whole, what do I do? And because being in the military, and again, not speaking from experience, but also from my understanding and knowing, the discussions that I have around this with other people as well, it's like nothing else compares. Like the adrenaline's not there, and because I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie too, and if it's not there, it's not there. So, and the other part is you're so used to regimented, getting things done in a specific way in a specific time frame. So you jump into a civvy job, and of course that's not up to speed, or that's not up to that same level of training. Then of course it matters. All of these things start to compound and become issues, and there is a snowball effect on certain things. So,
are veterans discharged and just left out in the cold, essentially? Is there enough being done?
That's a hard question, Mark.
I ask the hard questions.
Oh, dear. I think...
Well, you're seeing it firsthand,
yeah,
so...
Yes. I don't know enough to make huge comments on the whole thing, but what I can tell you is... personally, I feel like yes, and again, this is where, TVD comes into it, and why we want to bridge these gaps, and why we want to sort of, it's almost like putting your arm around somebody that's being discharged and actually getting them right at the beginning at the transition seminars from ADF. So this is the discussions that are wrapped around. So, we're right in the initial stages of how TVD is going to unfold. And yep, we've done a lot of groundwork to start with as well, because I'm so fortunate that I've got the support of my family and connected and the support and love from people like Kylie and now Martina, who's joined our team and our organisation as well, because it's a big idea, it's a big concept, but the problem is big enough to be able to handle it, and therefore then, which is why, we're in the initial stages, so we want it set up correctly, which is why the solicitors have got all of the detail, that whole structure and making sure that that's correct and set up. So, and we want to have those conversations. We are having those conversations, and we want to have these conversations with DVA and RSL Queensland, and get in right at the beginning with ADF from the transition seminar point of view, and say, here, this is what we have. It's a PCYC style setup in a hub sort of situation that allows that social connection and that social interaction immediately, And so obviously with all of this, we're in the funding stage as well. So, to make sure that all of this happens. So, yeah. So getting people from the transition stage and sort of teaching or showing them that, look, here are the services right from the beginning. Right from the beginning, this is how we can sort of work out. So with the advocacy side of things, with the DVA claims, and just making sure that they've got everything, because then that alleviates the pressure, right? So, and then they can then focus on things that are important to them, because it's unique. It's every single person is going to be different. So, and it's about getting to know that individual person. So, and that's what TVD is all about. It embodies the whole concept of, what we actually give a I can't swear, can I?
Say what you like. You can say what you like.
We can't. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like we care about you because you're family. Yeah, you fought for our country, you fought for our freedom, and yes, we do give a shit about you. And does that come from organisations that are driven and that are, I've got to be real careful here, that don't have the same, level of respect or whatever, because they're not, you know what I mean? They're not family. They're coming from it from a corporate point of view rather than from a family point of view. So what we want to do is create a network of family people or family, whether that be parents or grandparents and children and grandkids and wives, partners, husbands, whoever that is directly connected with military and first responders, and then be able to utilise that to then wrap around the support services that are required that fill these gaps.
Are we giving enough respect to, obviously, with our Vietnam veterans becoming now to the forefront, as the World War II veterans are starting to die off? The Vietnam veterans now are sort of stepping into the limelight, but are we giving enough respect to the newer veterans?
I don't know if it's giving enough respect. I feel like it's, I think we need to showcase it differently, And
in what way?
Well, we have Long Tan Day, for instance, which we had a huge day out at Sandown Park for Long Tan Day, which is 18th of August every single year. And so Vietnam Veterans Day, Long Tan Day. Is it something that we need to associate something that is, so we have the Anzac Day, we have a Long Tan Day, is it something that we also need to step up to the plate and be able to incorporate these younger vets that have served our country in the recent conflicts, so whether that be Iraq and Afghanistan and, all the others as well. So, yes, I do believe that we need to showcase it very differently.
In what way? What could we do to put them into the spotlight? Maybe some of them don't want to be in the spotlight.
Correct.
As you say, they've come out and they're looking for a new identity.
Correct, absolutely.
How can we showcase them better?
I think you need to give me a little bit more time to think about that, but I think I can come up with an idea. But I think the very first thing that we can do immediately would be to have a day designated specifically for our younger veterans.
Okay.
Immediately. Like that's a quick fix, but there's always going to be something else. But again, Yeah, I think the unity is, and the sense of belonging to something, I think that's really, really important. And so this is why, again, I keep coming back to TVD, but I'm going to talk about it with you because that's what we're working on at the moment. But that's why TVD is going to be so important. And we want it to be a household name of unity, of respect, of support, that offers things that, that can connect. It's all about connection and a safe space.
We've got Armistice Day, November the 11th.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Anzac Day.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Vietnam Veterans Day,
Mm-hmm.
as you said, on August the 18th.
Mm-hmm.
Is it saturating the market as such to have a day for junior veterans?
Do you think so?
No.
No, I don't.
But when would we have it? What would we like? When would we move it to? Like as I say, there's so much. Is there a particular time of the year you think that we should be looking at?
From a person that comes from it, that has a level of respect right from the beginning, I think any day is perfect. So I don't know. I'm probably not that person to decide upon that.
Should be every day.
Yeah, why not? But I think it's important to recognise and it's not just recognising the sacrifices that they've made, but also the fact of, that they've had, how brave they are to be able to step up and actually take this on, and to still continue to, I think that then comes from that core feeling of, I want to serve my country and I want to make a difference and I want to be a part of that. And have my time again and I'm not 40, I probably would do it myself. So, you know what I mean? Like I think that's, takes a really specific type of person. And I think that-that's the thing that we should be celebrating is the type of people that are willing to be able to, stand up and make a difference. And because it's not just, serving in conflict, it's also all the behind the scenes things like, look at all the reservists and all of that sort of thing that helped out with the bushfires and everybody, is this not the Australian way? Is this... Do you know what I mean?
Well, the Army's being put to work down in Victoria at the moment to help
Yep.
enforce the COVID restrictions.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do
people feel safe as well when the Army and when a level of defence is present?
You'd like to hope so.
I think so. I feel safe. I feel like they got my back. I also sort of know how they're trained too. So yeah.
TVD, what sort of funding are you getting? And are you applying for it?
Yeah, so we're, like I said, we're right in the initial stages of all of this. So we want to set it up correctly. It'll be, we have to go down the road of the charity side of things with DGR status, which is why, obviously, that's with the solicitors at the moment and setting that structure up correctly. But we will, and the costings report is something that we're right in the thick of as well, and making sure that we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
How much are you looking for?
Oh, lots. No. I think, look, I'd hate to speculate at this point in time, but I know that it's not going to be a...
Ballpark.
Operational costs included for, I would think, if I'm looking at a pilot program and taking this from just, from a setup to also operational costs and right the way through, because the way that I see TVD operating is a duplicable business model where we would completely iron out any kinks in regards to the structure and the actual working parts of how to help with the support network, with the support itself. And then pick that model up and put it in the next populous area of, where veterans are needed. So, and because they're coming out of Enoggera and out of Brisbane, then obviously that's the natural progression, is to be able to put the next one down in Brisbane. So, yeah, thinking a little bit big here, but again, it's required. For operational costs or for setup costs and operational costs on a 2-year program, I would imagine 2.5 mil.
Wow. What's the reaction been from government at this stage?
Well, we've had a brief conversation with state and federal government members here in our local region as well. So they love the concept, which is great. And the next step for us is obviously to tick off a few things that we need to do. So we obviously have the initial stages of the pitch deck completed, which gives you a very clear understanding about what we want to achieve, what the organisation is set out to do, why we want to do it, how our target audiences are in regards to, who our members are, who our family is, very clear understanding of all of that. But then there's obviously the further things that progress from that, which is obviously your business plan and the fun things that happen behind the scenes when you're trying to set up an organisation, and not so much a business, it's an organisation. So,
tell us some of the stories. You talk to a lot of these veterans. What sort of stories that you've heard over the time have stood out to you?
Oh, I love it when you put me on the spot here.
It's my job.
I hear a lot.
What has your dad told you? Let's get into specifics.
Do you know what, Mark? You're probably going to be fresh out of luck with all of this, because Dad didn't really talk too much about his experiences at all. So, we talk a little bit about, sort of services and that sort of thing, but it's more about, why they did things and that sort of stuff. So, I hate talking about little scenarios like this.
Okay, you're talking about why you did things. What sort of things is he saying?
Behaviour things that we talk about now, and ingrained behaviours that I'm picking up that I do myself, and then I have a 9-year-old son as well, and I know that I'm like, okay, well, I sort of... I know that those sort of behaviours are coming out in him as well. So,
is that nature or nurture, though?
I think it's a bit of both. Yeah, I think it is a bit of both. But I think, I don't know. You can't pinpoint whether or not that's specific when it comes down to the fact that that's, military or being a country girl or whatever the case may be. Or I don't know. But yeah. There's a lot of different stories about all different types of things.
Surely one must stand out. That you've been told over the time that you've really been touched by.
I think it's more the fact that what touches me the most is the people that are connected to our vets. So the wives and the children and what they experience, and even, it's not so much about that particular story, it's more about how they're affected as well. And I suppose that's that whole feeling of me feeling like I'm not alone, or my sister feeling like we're not alone, when we feel that same way as well. So it's, dealing with how their family is dealing with the effects of PTSD, because some of it is pretty bloody harsh and hard to deal with, and even coming from, direct, knowing people that are directly suffering, and then knowing from family members that are directly suffering as well, and then you're talking also then to all these other people, these veterans, over the years. Like, we're talking 17 years of stories here, Mark. So it's hard to sort of pinpoint one particular thing, but I can say it's more like a feeling. It's that feeling that of and I guess each individual person deals with their own particular trauma in their own particular way, and trying to understand these triggers, and then also understand how you alter your own way of life around your family member to be able to accommodate with those triggers as well. Like, these are things that are real.
As you're seeing it, are most vets suffering from some sort of trauma or PTSD, or is it just isolated?
No, I think most vets definitely have a level of trauma, and trauma can come, like I mentioned before, in physical and mental. So, and sometimes even physical trauma creates mental trauma. So, if you're in pain...
And I suppose the other way around.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because then you've also got other issues to deal with as well, like, prescription drug addictions and alcoholism and, you know, all of those sorts of things that tap into the next level of how do I make myself feel better, because that's what it's all about, is how do I make myself feel better.
Or not feel.
Or not feel. And you know what? A lot of them, you know, I've heard, they tell me, I just want to be numb. I don't want to feel. And even starting that whole transition of you know, rehabilitating themselves as well and making themselves feel better is all about identifying the fact that they don't feel, that they've made themselves numb, that they don't want to feel, and then how do you then transition back into a normal life of purpose and a normal life of identity, of trying to then say, it's okay to not feel, but how do I want to feel, and what are the steps that we can help you with to help you feel again?
You mentioned family, and
there's a lot of feeling going on around here.
Look, and that's good, and I feel your passion, you know, like, but it's just interesting that you did mention family, and it's like I don't know whether enough is given to family because it's going to the veterans, but the family also suffers.
Yeah.
How have you seen that?
Yeah, well, there definitely are organisations out there that help with that, and Open Arms, which is a DVA initiative, Open Arms Counselling definitely hits on the family of veterans as well. So, and it's a service that is available to children and grandchildren of veterans, you know. So, and I totally, utterly have huge amount of respect for the people and the team that are out there doing that job. And there is definitely support out there. I think what the problem is that there are a lot of organisations, but there doesn't seem to be an overarching system, and that's what TVD is going to embody. That's what we want to do. We don't want to be in competition with anybody. We want to work with everybody, and we want to make sure that we, you know, wherever they are.
Do others see it as a competition?
I don't know. I think everybody sees everything as a competition these days, but, you know, that's not what the intent is going to be. We want to work with everybody, and we want to make sure that everybody's looked after. Like, I know that we can't please everyone, but hell, can't we try? You know?
What's the reaction been? You mentioned the RSL. What's their reaction, and other military veteran groups? What's their reaction been?
Quite positive, you know. I mean, RSL is really trying to tap into younger veterans as well. So, you know, I feel like there's still a lot of conversations around, you know, to be had here, Mark. So I don't want to overstep the mark here at all. But yeah, I feel like it's definitely a positive spin, and they more to the fact that they know that there's a need, that there is a need, and whether they've been trying, and I don't know if they're missing the mark, or the general census is that they possibly are. And so, again, I don't want to step on anybody's toes here, but, you know, I feel like we want to be able to, to us, it's all about bridging the gap, you know.
Why is there a gap between, the older and the younger veterans?
Why was there a gap between World War I and Vietnam, you know, World War II Vietnam?
Yeah, well, Vietnam was sort of the war that no one wanted to have. Whereas there's really been support for the Timor and Iraqi and Middle Eastern veterans, and, you know, the veterans since even the Korean War. So there hasn't been that stigma that was in Vietnam, and yet you say that there is that gap that really needs to be bridged.
I think the young and old of you know, modern and older warfare, maybe. Like, I don't really know exactly why. I feel like there is always going to be a gap because of the age side of things as well, and how I just know from, you know, the older guys that are out at the park, and even my dad, you know, they think very, very differently, you know, to our generation, even to your generation, you know. So is it the... No, I'm not even going to go there.
Let's talk about your growing up with your dad.
Yep.
He was a bit of an entrepreneur. Talk about him. Tell us about what happened to you when you travelled around.
Yeah, okay. Well, I had a great upbringing. Well, I think I did anyway. We were country. So, Grew up on properties, learned to drive a car when I was 9 and learned to ride a horse when I was 2.
Yay.
And all the things that you do when you're on a land, And I guess because, he was a fencing contractor and, he was also a property overseer as well. So, he looked after things, and he was, so I would think, back in those days, he was also quite isolated as well. So, growing up out at Roma and Surat area, outback Queensland. So, yeah, and then obviously drafted at 21, I think it was, and yeah. 68.
How did that change his life?
I think it definitely altered him, but I think it wasn't. I believe that it probably wasn't until years and years and years, especially opening Sandown Park, that it's then become really forefront of discussion of, that sort of thing. So growing up, I really didn't. I just saw him as my dad who went and fought for our country, and we were very, very patriotic. I don't think I've ever missed an Anzac Day dawn service, and I don't think I've ever missed, really significant days that are wrapped around, that around him going to war. But being country, I just sort of, it was, we just grew up out west and we had a great life. And then from an entrepreneurial point of view, it just stemmed then into different things that they wanted to do. So, they have always worked for themselves. I don't think I've ever, other than my mum working for the Warwick Daily News at one stage there, selling advertising and that sort of thing, which then, that sort of experience then rolled them into them buying their very own newspaper company out west, out at St. George. So
Must have been an exciting time.
Oh, yeah. It was, it was normal. It was good.
Did your dad come back from his tour of Vietnam, and did he experience that emptiness and loss of identity? And did he have to look for it?
Oh, I don't, that's probably a better question to ask my mum. I'm the youngest out of the 3 of us, so I was sort of, it's probably even a better question to ask my sister. What do you think, Zoe? Do you think that that's what...
Oh, yeah, look, I think that when he did come back, that there was that period of time that he had to go find
himself.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
back on the land is definitely where he felt
most comfortable. Exactly right. And he always searches. That's why, whenever he needs some time out and defrag from life and that sort of thing, which is exactly what happens, he goes bush. You'll find him on the side of a riverbank, in the 9-metre gooseneck trailer that that they travel around Australia with, that he made too. So again, coming from the land, and he's pretty damn handy sort of a guy. So he's made everything that I know of in my lifetime, and anything that breaks or anything like that, I'm like, Dad, can you fix this, please? So yeah, from the newspaper company through then to a passion fruit farm in just outside of Gympie. They had that for 8 years, and that sort of didn't necessarily work out. So horticulture, we just worked out that wasn't really his thing, So, but there were a series of events that actually weren't in his control, which, stemmed him then to make another life decision of change, and that's where the next step after that was buying the block of land out at Gombori, and half an hour, 20 minutes, 25 minutes outside of Gympie towards Tin Can Bay, and that's where Sandown Park started. From there. So yeah, he's always been that entrepreneurial mindset, always sort of thinking about how he doesn't have to work for somebody else. I guess that's what it comes down to, earning an honest living, because that's who he is, And then you got our mum on the other end, who's that support, that rock, that anchor, that love, that compassion, that ties it all together.
Is that what you're now trying to do for other veterans?
What do you mean?
Are you the mother to them?
Oh, the 40-year-old mother. I'm not even 40 yet. I've got to stop saying that.
Big milestone.
I know, right? I don't know if it's the mother. I just think it's the support. I think it's definitely needed. It's the love. It's the compassion. It's that.
It's the vibe. It's the
Vibe.
constitution.
It is. It's the vibe. And to know that you're not alone. Like, I know that it's written out there many, many, many times, but until it's actually felt that you're not alone. And I guess this is the concept from TVD, is really we just want to make sure that everyone's looked after, that we've got the right people in the right places at the right time to be able to transition people into an area where they can find peace. And isn't that what life is all about, finding an inner peace?
You're talking about not being alone. I hear that Vietnam Veterans Day, Long Tan Day, August the 18th, is bigger than Anzac Day in your part of town.
It has become, yes, absolutely. Well, in our essence, in Sandown Park's little world, yes, it is bigger, because what happens is for the last 13 years now, they've actually taken and created a concept called Push to the Bush, which is where they take the veterans that go to Sandown Park. And we can pretty well much say it's majority, yes, they pick up some new ones, but these guys and partners and wives and everyone, they travel out then to small towns like Wyandra and Yarrika and little small communities that not necessarily don't yes, they have an Anzac Day ceremony, but they might not have veterans in that area that would do a march, for instance. So then they basically take out memorabilia, they go to the schools, they make a whole week, and they inject income into little towns like this. And then, before long, it's become such a thing now that, the council gets on board, in these areas, and the schools get on board, and the local RSL gets on board, and all of these things. And so therefore the stand down crew and that's what they've become, this push to the bush. And so any of the fundraisers that we do at Stand Down Park throughout the course of the year go towards push to the bush, so whether that be cook-ups or whether that be auctions or whatever the case may be, it goes towards, different things like buying books for the schools. And, we've got ladies that actually make these teddies that are which are called stand-down teddies, and they're beautiful. They're actually made out of, little tiny teddies that are only about this big.
How can someone get hold of them if they want one?
Or we'll have to talk to Maureen. I don't know how because they're made from love, and they're made from ex-military, whether it be their greens or their khakis or they're even, some of them I think were even made from the tracksuits of some of these veterans as well. So they're really important. They're quite damn special. So I'll have to talk to Maureen and find out, and we'll get them on Stand Down Park's Facebook page or website, I guess. So
okay, so what's the reaction when you do get the Stand Down Park crew, send them out into these smaller areas and smaller towns? What's the reaction over the week that they get from the kids, the town, the adults?
Oh, it lifts them completely. And again, I can only talk about the stories and the the photos. I mean, pictures tell 1,000 words, and you've got kids that are so excited to sit there and intently listen to, whether it's stories or, of the veterans, of what they have done and how they've got, and even, some of them take out whether, old shells or, military, shells, gun shells and helmets and hats and, little different bits of memorabilia that are important to them, and therefore then they've got their story behind it as well. So from the children's point of view, it's great. And then from the community point of view, I love it. It's some of these little towns, and again, growing up in small, country towns, social gatherings and that sort of thing can become, few and far between. So, when over time they've sort of managed to be able to build this, the fact that, outskirt properties and people living on those properties come in and they spend the time. But it's also about, them coming into the community, injecting some money into the actual community as well. So it sort of boosts the economy as well, which is really good. So, yeah.
You're talking about fundraisers. You've recently had one. Tell us about that and what you've got coming up.
Sure. So the how do I put this? Not how do I put it, but Kylie James, who has Veterans Retreat out at Mother Mountain, has been working absolutely tirelessly on creating this event called Beat the Retreat, which was actually only on the weekend. And it was a huge, phenomenal success in every way, considering we've got all the COVID restrictions and that sort of thing. And that really, literally came about because... So I don't know, have we talked about Kylie and what her retreat is all about?
We've touched on it, but we might go into it in more depth.
Okay, so Kylie has the Veterans Retreat. I think you've mentioned this on a previous podcast before. It's a 40-acre property that she bought for her sanctuary and has opened it up to military and first responders for an area for rehabilitation and also just to rest. And she's set up as a charity as well. And so... she was also a big volunteer for the Gympie Music Muster as well. And when the announcement came through earlier in the year to say, because of COVID, that they're cancelling the muster, she just came up with an idea of, well, let's have our own and let's host it on her property. And it then snowballed from there. And the most amazing thing was the response that she got. So because we're friends and we've been spending quite a lot of time together as well, we just started to work in with each other, and before we knew it, here's this amazing event that has all unfolded. So and she's had a great team of people help her with all of that sort of thing as well, and bands and musicians come together and volunteer their time. Sponsors came on board. It was very professionally put together, and you can totally tell that, with military precision, it just went off like clockwork. So, and yeah, so that was Beat the Retreat. So BTR, hashtag BTR 2020 is when you, I come from a marketing background, so any chance I can, that's what I want to do. Hashtag. So if you ever want to have a look, and I guess what it is now, because it was such a success and because it raised, a great amount, well, I don't know, monetary-wise, but, awareness-wise as well.
Lifted spirits.
It absolutely did, She was aiming for 200 people. She got 130 people there, and it was, it was awesome. And working in conjunction with, food trucks and, merchandise, and we were able to put together the whole merch side of things. Like, that's all Kylie. She did an amazing job, and then branched out to the people that were in her circle, and it all came together beautifully, and she did an incredible job. And she emceed the whole night. It was just impressive.
What's the difference, and I know you're not in competition, but what's the difference between, say, Sandown Park and what Kylie's doing?
There's not a lot of difference in the sense that, we're there for the same purpose. So, and it's more of a collaboration than anything else. I guess Sandown Park, because it's been in operation for so long now, and because it is, it's open to the public. So the business models are completely different. That's the key thing that you can probably put to it. So where Kylie's is situated as a charity with DGR status, Sandown Park is a business that, is open to the public, that basically, operates slightly different. From a concept point of view, from a veterans retreat point of view, pretty much on par. So, it's a place where our vets can come and stop and relax and defrag and not have to think and not feel pressured and not be surrounded by all the noise and just woosah.
Is that what they need?
Yes.
More than anything else?
Yes.
Time to decompress?
Yes.
So with Kylie's, is it the older veterans or the younger veterans that she's aiming for? Because you specifically have a large market of the older veterans.
Yeah, I don't think it's an aiming for thing. I think it's a natural sort of natural feel, environment.
Like attracts like, because
Exactly.
it's started by your father and
Yep.
Kylie's younger.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. So she's, like I said, 20-year Army veteran. So, and she's 40 years of age. So, and within 11 years, she was, at the distinguished rank of Warrant Officer Class 2. So she's not just anybody. She knows her stuff. She's very well respected as well, which is beautiful. Very admirable. So again, I feel like she's got that it's her people, this is her, and so of course they're going to relate, So again, I feel like it is definitely younger veterans that are attracted to Veterans Retreat, and yet the older veterans that are at Sandown Park, because we do a lot of collaborating, and we want to we've sent people from Sandown Park, not some in busloads. In their own cars, because they all like to be in control, but and they go and they've been over to Kylie's retreat, and they've as a farm stay, she's got donkeys and sheep and chooks and horses, and she does equine therapy there, and all the different types of things that Sandown doesn't offer, she has available, and it taps into a different level of relaxation, because you have the other animal therapy is huge.
How do the veterans respond to animal therapy?
Well, I think really well. You see a lot of veterans who have assistance dogs, and it's becoming more and more popular, because if it's something that is reliant upon them to love and care and feed for them, then that's just another element there that that fills a purpose. It fills it could just be that one little thing that dog or that pet or that horse or whatever it may be. It could be that one little thing that just gives the reason that they get up that next day, And it's as serious as that, Mark.
What else could we do then, other than animal therapy? Is there something else that we really need to do to just kick things off for them?
I think, again, this is where TVD and what we're trying to achieve with this is having a multitude of activities, events, that sort of thing, under the one sort of umbrella that is available. So, yes, a lot of guys are even getting further and more into the meditation and the modern therapies of yoga and Pilates even, and all those sorts of things that make your body feel good and that concentrate on your breathing. And, I just know for myself, and when you are in a state of hypervigilance, for instance, there are certain things that you want to be able to do that are in your control that you can do that help you manage, and that might be boxing or running or climbing, which are the three things that make me feel amazing, and that help me just woosah, So having that physical component, which is why we want to, under the one roof, be able to have the boxing studio and boxing gym set up so that, yes, you can go out and you can, if you're just feeling a bit bleh, and you need to box, because boxing's great.
It's a great discipline.
Love it.
Me too.
Yeah, I love it, and I've really gotten right into it in these last probably 8-9 months. So, but yes, and just that general exertion of physical. But in saying that also, some people their bodies are broken too. So you have to sort of take and cater for that as well. So that's why, it just might be anything. So, dancing makes me feel amazing. Dancing makes, I know that dancing makes Kylie feel amazing, and other friends that I've got that are, that do at sometimes, struggle with life,
So physical therapy is pretty important.
I think so, absolutely, yeah.
What's the reaction been to it?
From a body perspective?
Well, from these veterans that might not be doing stuff and get introduced to things that they're might not react to so well, and they might react really well to it, but like it's just changed for them.
Yeah, I think every person and this is where it comes down to tailoring programs and things that are specific to individuals, because what might work for one person might not work for the next person. So, there's plenty of groups out there that veterans and younger veterans even that are jumping into that are, stand-up paddleboard down the Noosa River, those sorts of things. Or, even going out and what Wayne was doing or in regards to shooting and that sort of thing, and going out camping and doing a 7-day trek or something along those lines. Like, there's plenty out there. It's just knowing what's available, and then also being able to find out and for people to feel comfortable with people to find out what they actually need, and that's where we just sort of we rein it back a bit and we come at it from a family point of view, and this is where the support of family really come into it, because at the end of the day, I would rather be right beside somebody that is, that's a family member, and now I look at it from a very broad perspective, because the older veterans being part of Sandown Park for so long, they've become my extended family, so that's probably why I feel so compelled to be able to, really push TVD into this next element of reality and be able to go, it's needed for the family.
If someone wants to find out about TVD and follow up on what we've been talking about today, how do they do that?
So we are right in the beginning of launching things, and we've actually, you should feel so lucky, because we've chosen talking to you to be able to start the process of extending it out, and it's a little daunting for me because
subscribe and share.
Yeah. So we're right in the thick of all of that. We do have a Facebook page that we're just about to launch all of that, but we're going to start. We're starting all of that like now. So we've had a very, very busy couple of months, with people moving, within our organisation. So we've got my sister, who's our COO. She's here to make sure she's brilliant, and then Kylie is also part of TVD as a director as well, and then we also have Martina. So her husband has done 14 tours overseas.
Wow.
Or her fiance, 14 tours overseas. So we're very much connected within, so the organisational framework that we have, and this is why I feel so humbled, appreciative and grateful, the fact that I've got amazing people around me that are just as passionate as what I am and can see the vision that has been simmering away there for a little while and gone, yep, let's actually make this something and let's make it. And then it just evolves. And that's what is going to happen. It's just going to evolve. So, coming from a marketing background, I think you're going to see it everywhere when it's, we're going to start following up through Facebook and Instagram and all the channels, plus also, website and that sort of thing as well. But watch this space. That's what I keep saying, come back to, watch this space, because we're still in the thick of making sure that it's set up correctly so that it's got legacy, that it's not something that's just going to, be set up and in 3 years' time just, dissipate.
Peters out, yeah.
That's it. We don't want that to happen. We want it set up as an entity that will provide a beacon and support for lifetimes, that surpass my lifetime, that surpass my son's lifetime, that surpass my nephew's life and niece's lifetime. So, and Kylie's kids and, Martina's kids and that sort of thing. So Martina is, she's 15 years of design creativity. So she's responsible for our branding, and she's First Strikes Promotion, so which is her business. So she's not only a graphic designer, but she's also does all the apparel and all of that sort of thing. So, oh my God, how amazing was it on the weekend that we've been talking about this, about TVD for a little while, and then starting to work on, a brand perspective and what the brand means and what the name means and what's behind it and how is it perceived out to people. Because again, the veteran's daughter it feels like it's directed to females, but it's not. That's why we utilise the secondary brand of TVD so that it becomes shortened. It's a concept, and it's the support that's behind the concept that really is what we want to get off and what we want to portray to people and that sort of thing. So,
is it unique that there's 2 veterans retreats in the one area, or is it something that's growing throughout the land?
Definitely growing. And I don't think it's a bad thing at all. You know, you've got all different types of veterans retreats that are in different areas that offer different things, and the majority of the time you will find them in isolated areas as well. So, you know, Coxcomb and all different ones. So, you know, some of them are quite difficult to get to as well. From
Are you interacting with
my
other areas and other groups?
From a stand-down park point of view, we've always done that. So we've always, where we're able to have a readily available, their pamphlets and their flyers to sort of go. And again, because they're grey nomads and they're shifting, and travelling all the way around, it doesn't take long before, they work out where all the veteran retreats are and that sort of thing as well, because they're with like-minded people as well.
Well, sounds like you are the veteran's daughter.
Oh,
A veteran's daughter. But
Yep.
no, congratulations on what you've set up, TVD,
Thank you.
and hashtag
Yes,
TVD, and
hashtag.
good luck with the marketing.
Thank you.
And Prue Marshall, thanks for joining us today over the bonnet.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.